I sometimes say that people who look for the good seem to always find it. I think that we're learning some new ways to use some digital tools and resources that maybe we had available to us in the past, but we didn't have the opportunity to try. Now we've had to, and that's certainly going to make our teaching and learning stronger. And overall, I think we're going to come away from this with a greater appreciation of each other and our human interactions with each other.
Okay, it is April 6th, and we're back with Dr. Scott Elliott. He's the superintendent of Watauga County Schools. And school's been out now for about 3 solid weeks. All the remote learning is taking place. And we first had Scott on here right after school shut down. And I wanted to get him back on to give us some important updates on how things are going there for the school. I know that even though classes aren't happening at the school, you guys are still super busy. So thanks for taking time out of your schedule to talk with us for a minute, Scott.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. My first question for you is how is this remote learning going? Have you had any feedback from folks that might shed some light on how people are doing with it?
Yeah, as you said, we're a few weeks into this school shutdown. Schools are currently closed by the governor until at least May the 18th. We're hoping that we can get back into school by then, but that will be the governor's decision, not ours. And I would say, like anything that is brand new, our quick pivot to remote learning was at first a little bumpy and has now started to smooth out a little bit. I've seen that with my own 2 children, where, this is new for their teachers. And as teachers, we're trying to figure out, without trying to replicate school at home, which is not what we're trying to do. We just want the students to be able to stay engaged and, prevent learning loss as much as possible. Just kind of what is that sweet spot for students in terms of just enough, not too much, not too little, that's engaging and manageable for them. I would say, at first it was very overwhelming for our teachers. And so we gave them the first week after the governor closed school to prepare. The first 2 days we closed just and had teacher work days to give them time to prepare. Then the next 3 days we handed out all of the learning packets, and we distributed over 2,000 Chromebooks in those 3 days to students in grades 3 through 7 who did not already have theirs. So in grades 3, 12 now we have about 3,800 laptops that are out. And a lot of teachers are using a lot of tools to connect to their students. I've seen a lot of Google Meet sessions where groups of students are meeting with their teachers just to stay connected to school. And that part's been very positive.
That's great. Yeah, my kids have taken to it really well. And to be honest, I haven't had to give a whole lot of time to it. They've just kind of plugged right in. And I guess I'm curious, how is the testing going to be taking place? How are the grades going to be given out? Any words on that?
Yeah, there are some updates on that. Again, those are state level decisions coming from our State Board of Education. But in regards to testing, there will be no end of course or end of grade testing this year. The Federal Department of Education, which requires each state to have an accountability program, very quickly when schools started closing across the country, issued a statement that they would entertain waivers from the different accountability models. And North Carolina was quick. It was about 2 weeks ago now that the North Carolina Board of Education met and requested the waiver, and it was approved within 24 hours. So that's just one thing that our students and teachers don't have to worry about right now. With this, significant differences and disparities across the state in terms of what kids can access and what material is being covered, it makes no sense for lots of reasons for kids to be testing at the end of this year, if in fact we are able to come back. In terms of grades, the State Board of Education also made a decision about a week ago that for all graduating seniors, that they will only be held to the state's requirement of 22 credits. Here locally and in many other school systems, we require more than that, 28 or 32 to graduate, but students will be held to the state minimum standard of 22. And their grades were captured on March the 13th, which is the last day that we were in school. And seniors will receive either a pass or a withdrawal. And that was the way to try to, again, account for some, inequities across the state and what kids could access or do. So we're kind of holding seniors harmless. And then for students like my children and your family's children in grades kindergarten through 11th grade, it'll really depend on whether or not we come back in May. And if we don't, there is conversation about maybe doing the same thing in terms of a pass withdrawal, or maybe even just letter grades for those students.
Gotcha. So we've got spring break coming up here in a couple weeks. What are you doing for spring break?
Well, we are not traveling. We'll probably spend some time outside in the yard. Our family, we're big, hikers, and Mountain Sea Trail runs near our house, just like many folks in the community. So we're going to just enjoy some family time together and slow down and take a deep breath. I'll probably be doing some work. There has been just a lot of work that has gone into this for all of our team. But I'm strongly encouraging our teachers and our principals and our child nutrition folks to take that week off. To unplug and disconnect. Unfortunately, that means that we will not be distributing the daily meals that we have been distributing. At the end of today, over the last 3 weeks, or tomorrow would be 3 weeks, I think, or just thereabouts, we will have distributed over 50,000 meals to students. 12 different buses that we're delivering on 7 different sites. But those folks are working hard, and I'm really concerned about them. They also need to take a break. But we're going to try to relax and just spend some quality time with the kids.
That's good. So you're not distributing over spring break. That's right.
Right. So one thing I would love, we're going to send out an email and a phone call to all of our families probably tomorrow. But on Friday of this week, because spring break is just next week, at the end of this week, we will be giving out our normal number of meals, and that's 2 meals per day to everyone who comes through. But we're also going to be giving out 3 additional days worth of meals. Okay. So when folks come through the car rider lines or at one of our delivery sites this Friday, they will get 4 days worth of meals, 6 meals, I guess about 8 meals, 6 extra meals than normal. Now, separate from us though, the churches in the community have come together to provide a spring break feeding program, and it'll be very limited, and it will be first come, first serve. But any families who come to one of our school sites, one of those 7 sites where we have been feeding, and Brushy Fork, that they will be able to get several days worth of meals also from the churches that have been raising money and collecting food. In addition to that, we also have a certain number of families that we deliver boxes of meals to, and we'll be doing that this week in advance of next week. But we will not be doing the bus deliveries next week. So folks that, the children walk out to their bus stops, or they meet us at a church location or something like that, we'll not be doing that next week, and we'll pick back up with all of that the Monday after.
Gotcha. So that's great to hear that people are stepping in to try to fill that void there during that week. So you've been in the news a little bit lately. I was reading the Charlotte or the Raleigh News and Observer the other day. I saw your face in there, and
Oh no.
Did you know that?
Someone mentioned to me an article in the Raleigh News and Observer, but honestly, I haven't had a lot of time for consuming news lately.
Well, it was just about your tweet that put the emphasis on just putting your head down, doing the work, and not worrying about some of the criticisms or people getting on their soapboxes. I was just curious if not to force the issue, but if you wanted to respond to that at all.
Well, I try to keep a fairly low profile. I don't do a tremendous amount of public communication, probably the introvert in me, but I realize that, I am the leader of our school system, and people do expect for me to speak. But I think that the tweet that you're mentioning from my Twitter account was the result of just a tremendous amount of social media and commentary last week that really built up to a head and really became discouraging for a lot of our folks, where I mentioned to you just a moment ago that we're approaching over 50,000 meals being distributed. We have people doing jobs they've never done before, people pitching in to do whatever needs to be done. All of this tremendous work by the teachers, working at least twice as hard as they normally do. And they don't need to hear from pundits about what's wrong with our public education system or about taking this opportunity to overhaul our system. We take very seriously what we do. And that the whole point of that tweet was for me to communicate to our team and to our educators, just block all that noise out. And that they are the heroes right now in our local community. I didn't mean for it to be rude. And certainly, we as a school system, I think, are fairly progressive. And I think that some of the frustration that has been expressed in responses to that tweet have come from people outside the community. Not that there aren't frustrations here, but where other school systems have not started their remote learning, or they are not providing the meals, or they haven't heard from their teachers or their superintendents. And I understand that frustration too. But I really meant for it to be just a statement to our own folks to keep their heads up, to stay focused on the mission of loving our students and keeping them fed, and of course continuing their education to the extent possible. I had no idea that it was going to, sort of blow up like it did, but clearly I think what that means is that other educators in other places across the country are feeling the same thing.
Yeah, well, I thought it was well said, and I'm certainly thankful for all the work that you guys are doing. I know several people within the system that are working really hard, so
Great team.
appreciate you guys. So how many, that leads me to a question I had, is how many people are employed within the school system in the county?
Yeah, typically we'll have about 700 employees, and that ranges everything from temporary teachers assistants to part-time school bus drivers up to our full-time staff. We have about 250 to 300 licensed staff or teachers, depending on how you classify them. So we're the third largest employer in Watauga County after Appalachian State University and the Appalachian Regional Healthcare System. So one of my three big priorities over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been just keeping our team employed. And having work for people to do so that they can keep their jobs and keep their healthcare benefits. Every day, someone is telling me that they're thankful for their job, or that they are the only one in their family that hasn't been laid off.
Yeah.
We are being flexible with people. We realize that this is first and foremost, a health issue, this pandemic. And so any of our employees who want to work from home or can do their work from home have been allowed to. And I couldn't give you an exact number, but the vast majority of the school system employees are working from home right now. Some have asked if they could come to the schools, teachers to get their resources or whatever. We're certainly not keeping them from coming in. But your bus drivers who are delivering meals, your child nutrition employees or team members who are preparing all of the meals, and teacher assistants, custodians, our maintenance staff, and our transportation staff, and our IT staff, and our administrators, by and large, are all showing up to work. And we've tried everything possible to keep from having people to go on unemployment or to use their own personal leave. State has given us some flexibility with that, and I appreciate that. But unlike other businesses or government organizations that maybe have allowed their employees to go home and continue to be paid, we haven't been given necessarily that option within public schools if we want to continue to provide the meals and the remote learning. So we're trying to strike that balance right now. We're taking lots of extra measures to protect folks in terms of, following appropriate social distancing. And as folks come through the car rider lines this week, they'll notice that the folks out there handing out the meals are going to probably be standing back a little bit more, maybe handing the meals off on a tray instead of hand delivering them into the cars. They're going to be wearing gloves, of course. We've had lots of community members step forward this weekend and make and donate lots of face masks. I took those out and distributed them this morning to our folks, and we have more that are coming in. So we're just trying to strike that balance of keeping folks employed, keeping them safe and healthy, continuing this mission of keeping the kids engaged and keeping the community fed.
That's great. I heard there may actually be some job vacancies there. Is that right?
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. We just posted our spring job vacancy announcement. A lot of those are our licensed teachers and professional career track jobs, but we have some really good paying jobs that are available to folks. And if there are folks out there that maybe have lost their jobs or have had to be laid off or their businesses are declining, we have a couple of jobs in our maintenance department. We're looking for general technicians, but in particular, anyone with plumbing, electrical, or carpentry skills. Those are good paying jobs with good benefits. We're also looking for school custodians, and that's such an important job right now. And we've worked over the last few years to increase the pay there. And even if someone's not looking for a forever job in one of those jobs, we're always hiring in school custodians, and we have work pretty much right now for folks if they want to. We think we're a pretty good place to work, and we really love and take care of our people. And maybe there's some folks out there right now that are looking for work.
Great. Well, my last question for you would be around this idea of the silver lining. You know, we're always looking for how what's the good that might come of this very difficult time. Any thoughts there? Anything new that's popped out to you that might be a little glimmer of hope?
Yeah, I sometimes say that people who look for the good seem to always find it. And so I appreciate the Keep Boone Healthy initiative and the work of the Chamber of Commerce and these interviews that you've been doing, Matt, that just shine a light on the great work that's happening all around the community and the leaders here who keep that optimistic heads up kind of view of things. And certainly we see that in the school system as well. We'd love to have all the students at school with us right now, but some of the silver linings are around those community groups that I mentioned that are coming together, the churches and individuals making donations to help continue to feed our children. The silver linings of just seeing the teamwork that's happening within our schools and among the teams, the positive words of encouragement that our teachers are hearing from their parents, and the just general great, I mean, I think we've always felt it in this community, but it's just an affirmation of the appreciation that people have for their public schools. And back to that tweet message as well, I certainly didn't mean to imply that we're not going to learn and grow from this and in the end benefit from it. I think that we're learning some new ways to use some digital tools and resources that maybe we had available to us in the past, but we didn't have the opportunity to try. Now we've had to, and that's certainly going to make our teaching and learning stronger in the future. And overall, I think we're going to come away from this with a greater appreciation of each other
Hmm.
and our human interactions with each other. Also, I know we're filming this on a Monday, and I just want to put in a plug for the Boone Chamber's Takeout Tuesday initiative,
Yep.
and to know that the school system is participating in that. So if there are folks out there that normally aren't coming by school to pick up a meal for their children, I would encourage you to maybe to get out of the house if you can, go through the drive-through or take out of one of our great local restaurants, get something for the adults, swing by one of the schools that are getting meals for the children and take those home. And the Chamber's keeping track of those each week to see if we can do anything possible to help out those local businesses that always do so much for us.
That's great. Well, thanks, Scott. We really appreciate your time. We'll let you get back to your job, but thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate you too.